Hey guys, sorry it's been so long since I've done one of these videos. It's been a very hectic last however many months it's been since I've done a video. I think it's been about maybe 5 or 6 months. I had a whole bunch of stuff going on, but I'm back and I'm doing another video, and this video is about the movie Sinister, which I just got back from seeing. I saw it with a friend of mine, and the first time I ever saw the trailer for it was last week when I saw Looper, and since I saw that trailer, I've been like, oh, when's it coming out? Oh, it's coming out next weekend. All right then. So I just waited for it to come out, and I saw it today. Luckily, I was able to find somebody to go see it with me because otherwise I would have been going to see this movie alone. And luckily, he was nice enough to have a beer with me after we saw it, so we could talk it through. Because I find if I don't talk about a movie after I've seen it, I linger on it and I think about it too much, and I scare myself. So it's really good that I got that all out of my system, because at the moment, while some of the images of the movie are still in my head, it's me thinking about it has kind of gone away. So I'm just kind of like, okay, I have an opinion on this movie now, and my opinion is damn good. Holy crap, is that a really good movie? I know a lot of the movie reviews I've done on this channel have been extremely positive, especially horror films I've seen. I know when I saw Paranormal Activity 3, I was really positive. When I saw Grave Encounters, I was really positive, and now I just saw Sinister, and I'm saying it's really positive. And this is just kind of standard with my videos of spoiler alert. If you plan on seeing this movie, you know my general opinion is it's good. Go see it. Expect more of a thriller psychological film than you might be expecting, despite the fact that it's a rated R film. But it's well worth the money. I think it's a really good film. Psychologically, it is quite effective. So if you want something that's more effective than it is a gore fest, then go right ahead, go see it. It's really good. Now, going into spoilers, pretty much the trailers almost give away every single moment in the film when you see the demon, when you see this pagan character named Bagul. Um, Otherwise, like, he never really appears in full until the very end of the film. Um, the plot of the movie is very outlined in the trailer. If you want to know what the movie's about, really just go watch the trailer. It outlines most of the movie from almost beginning to end. The whole point of the film is that, like, when the path of each of the murders that happens in the movie, of each of the families, happens when one family moves to the house of the previously murdered family and then moves away. And so it sort of makes up this chain of this kind of like line between one house to another. And so that's why when Ethan Hawke's character, Ellison, moves into the house, almost at the very end of the movie, probably about 10 minutes to the end, they move back to their old house, which is basically this gigantic mansion. In any case, how the movie ends, again, big spoiler alert, is they move back to their old house, which triggers the kid that goes missing in each of the families is the kid that's responsible for the murders. So basically, their daughter kills the family at the end of the movie, and it records it, and then Bagul kind of grabs her and takes her into the movie, into the Super 8 film, and that's kind of the end of the movie. This film is honestly more of a character study than it is a blood and gore fest film. It's more a study of how Ethan Hawke's character kind of starts to go insane and is driven insane by the imagery that is in these films, by finding out what happened to these families. It's more about how these films are affecting him and his own family, how his son is developing night terrors, and actually the jump scare of his son coming back through the cardboard box, which has appeared in most of the trailers. That happens pretty early in the movie. Like, I think it happens maybe 20-25 minutes into the film. Considering I thought he was in the trailer, it seemed like the kid was possessed, when in reality, this kid has a history of night terrors, and it just seems like as if his night terrors are amplified because the house that they're staying in is, a house of a murdered family. For the most part, the jump scares are justified. They have a reason to be there. They are legitimate scares. They are not, it's not like someone jumping out of a closet wearing a costume or anything, or this was actually, I think, my main complaint from Paranormal Activity 3 was that most of the jump scares in the film, I think for like the first half, are all fake outs. They're just, people wearing masks or people just, kind of standing behind you or something. In this movie, almost every jump scare that happens is legitimate. It is part of what is going on in the grand scheme of things. It is related to what is actually happening. Almost every single night that they're in the house, something goes on. I mean, whether it's the film projector is turning on by itself, he hears people walking around, he hears noises in the attic. My one major complaint in this film is that there's a scene where he's wandering around the house and he's kind of like investigating because he thinks he hears something or he hears footsteps in the attic. And it kind of does that whole soundtrack thing where like the soundtrack gets really loud and then it pulls back to where it's pretty much silent, and then boom, really really loud noise to a point where it's like that would totally wake me up. And I'm a heavy sleeper. I'm a really heavy sleeper. It's like if I heard that while I was sleeping, I would instantly be up. I'm surprised that like he's the only one that heard it. The rest of the family is still asleep. It's dead in the middle of the night. It's like, how did no one else hear this? There's a really good character in this film that you're pretty much laughing in this film just as much as you're jumping and you're screaming. And the main reason for that is because of a character who I only recall him as Deputy So-and-so. I can't actually remember what his name is because I think they only mention it once in the film. They refer to him more as Deputy So-and-so, which is hilarious. This character is single-handedly the best thing of this whole movie because every time he's on screen, he's just so awkward and he's so adorable. And there's a great scene between him and Ethan Hawke. He's basically just had a really rough night. And so he invites the deputy over and he wants to talk about, the fact that he thinks he's either going insane or that, there's all this supernatural stuff going on. And so Ethan Hawke is like, he's trying to comfort him and he's basically trying to say, maybe the stress is getting to you. Maybe the all the pressure of what you're doing and all your work is kind of just coming down on you and you can't really handle it versus it being something supernatural. And so Ethan Hawke's like, no, I'm not crazy. It's not the stress. So you don't believe in paranormal stuff. And Deputy So-and-so is just like, oh God, no, I would never sleep a night here. 4 people hung in the backyard? Are you crazy? I would never spend a night here. And it just makes Ethan Hawke sound even more crazy. And it's just kind of funny because throughout the whole movie, you basically have his wife, the deputy, the sheriff, basically every single person in this movie is saying, do you realize how crazy this is? You've just moved into the house of a family that was murdered here, and it's just hilarious that everyone's immediately like, you have doomed us all, which in a sense he has. You really sympathize with Ethan Hawke's character throughout the whole movie. I mean, what he does isn't necessarily the smartest thing. I mean, he moves into a house of a murdered family so that he can write a book. And he wants to reclaim the fame that he used to have. He wants to have his 15 minutes of fame back. And you don't really villainize him though. You empathize with him because he wants the best for his family and he wants the best in his life. It's just he also wants to do the thing he loves, and he loves writing. You can tell he loves it. He's just kind of misguided, and the things he does and the lies he tells ultimately come back and bite him in the ass, and you feel for him rather than guilt trip him. The negatives I can come up with this movie are so outweighed by the positives. The positives being really well-developed characters. These characters are so likable, they're so empathetic, they really care about what's going on, and you can tell that this guy is just, it really is a focus on Ethan Hawke. Like, you have to kind of go into this movie realizing that it's not about what is haunting them specifically or what the serial killer is. It's mainly a study of how Ethan Hawke is processing all of this and how it affects him. That is mainly what this movie is about. At least that's how I took it. On top of that, you also have a nice plot line where like you start to connect the dots between one murder to another to another to another, and you can probably tell where the movie's going probably about 15 minutes before it gets there. I mean, at least closer to the end. To be honest, I think I really like this movie because the fact that it doesn't have so much of an emphasis on gore, and the fact that it actually cuts away from a lot of that kind of stuff, it actually tries to cut and artistically, it is actually shot more like an art film, if anything. The cinematography is absolutely gorgeous in this movie, which is really weird for a horror film, I find. There's a really good scene where he's watching one of the film canisters, and it's a family that's getting their throat slashed open, and instead of showing you just the film, it shows the reflection of it in his glasses, or when they're cutting the throat of the kid, and they have him turn away, and you can still see it technically happening, but it's so blurred in the background, and his face is so silhouetted and just highlighted by the film. It's just so beautifully shot. It's a great, oh, so gorgeous. And you'll find actually a lot of the time that because of a particular scene in the film where there's a whole bunch of kids that are kind of following Ethan Hawke around and he doesn't see them, you're constantly going to be looking in the background for the rest of the film. You're going to be like, if there is half a frame or more of empty space, you're going to be looking. You're just going to be looking for something to walk by or to appear or to jump out or something. You're just constantly looking. And I think that is really good manipulation of your audience to a point where, like, you have now convinced your audience that something is going to appear in every single screen, and it makes them paranoid. It affects them. It causes them to go through the same paranoia that Ethan Hawke is now going through. You have successfully brought your audience through the same character arc that your character is going through, and that is so well done in this film. And you're honestly just going to be spending so much time looking around the film and like trying to spot stuff. There seems to be something different in every single one, and I know if I watch this movie again, I'm going to be like looking at every single film so closely to see if I can spot it before it would normally come up in the film. I honestly don't know why so many people are kind of bad mouthing this movie. I'd say about 50, I've heard about 50-50 in terms of reviews. I've heard like one half is like, it's a really good horror film, one of the best I've seen in a long time, go see it. Whereas the other half is like, don't waste your money, it's a waste of time, nothing happens. But I think it depends on how you view the movie. To me, if you view it more as a psychological thriller with some gore in it, you're gonna like it a lot more. The main reason it got an R in the United States is because there's basically kids being killed. That is the main reason it got an R. Not because of how much gore it has, but just because of the fact that there is a heavy emphasis on children being murdered and children doing the murders. Oh my god, there's one kid that kills his family. I think it's the pool kid. He's the creepiest one out of the bunch. He like looks up at the camera like really creepily, and oh, it's so creepy. There is a don't do that moment in the film where it's like, it was so blatant when I did it because my arms literally went up like this, and both the people that I was sitting next to just kind of like turned to look at me and be like, really, you just did that? And I was like, I know, but he's doing something that's so incredibly stupid that no one would ever do. Which is pretty much right at the end of the movie when Deputy So-and-so calls him and tells him, you've moved. You have now continued the chain. That if this is a serial killer, you have basically continued his trend of killing families that have moved into the previous murdered family's home and then moving away. That is part of his MO. And so you've continued it. And so immediately after the deputy tells him this, he watches the extended cuts of each of the murders, he strings them all together and he watches them, and immediately after he gets knocked out and drugged, which then leads up to his murder. It's like, if I had just been told that, I would not watch the rest of this film. I would be like, oh shit. I would not have done that. I so not have done that. Otherwise, yes, full recommendation. I think it's a great film. The only way I could see someone complaining about this film is like, they think it's boring. I mean, for some people, I could say, yeah, it's kind of boring, but I found it really interesting and really intriguing to see this character go through everything he's going through. I know the guy that was sitting next to me, he was like, I found that more funny than horrifying. And I'm like, oh, I mean, there were some really good, funny moments. There's actually a lot of really good, funny moments in this film. So, but by no means is the movie bad. It is not bad. I mean, you could say it's average at worst. To me, if I'm doing a rating system, I would easily give it an 8 out of 10. It's a really good movie. Just go and see it in a theater, see it with a friend. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go to sleep now. because I think I can actually sleep after watching this film, which normally I wouldn't be able to do. But surprisingly, I'm okay. So, have a good night, you guys. See ya.